Great. My name is Nicole Holybar Walker, a managing director of alumni engagement here at the Emory Alumni Association. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping announcements for today's session. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in the Learning and Development webinar and program series are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect the university, the Alumni Association, or its affiliates. The content provided in this program is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as an endorsement by Emory University or the Emory Alumni Association. This session is being recorded. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to share them in the chat box. Now, I am excited to introduce our dear friend and featured speaker, Hallie Crawford. If you haven't had the pleasure of connecting with Hallie before, Hallie has been a certified career coach, speaker, author, and national career expert since 2002. Her company, Create Your Career Path, is headquartered here in Atlanta, and she's regularly featured in the media in places like Forbes, CNN, Money Magazine, and Wall Street Journal. She has an undergraduate and graduate degree from Vanderbilt University and the University of Illinois. With over 2,000 success stories, her team of coaches and resume writers help professionals find the jobs that make them want to jump out of bed in the morning. Their website is www.createyourcareerpath.com. Please help me give a warm welcome to Hallie Crawford.
Thanks, Nicole. Greatly appreciate it. So yes, I am calling in from Atlanta, and although I'm not an Emory grad, I feel like I should be an honorary one because I live just 15 minutes away, and my parents actually live on Clifton Road right down the street. So I'm proud to be partnered with Emory and have been working with the Alumni Association for at least 10 years, maybe a little bit more. And today we're going to be talking about advice that we give to all of our clients to help you find greater work-life balance. And as part of this, how to manage our mental health in the workplace. It's a much bigger topic today than I think it ever has been before, in a really good way, because there's a lot that's happened in the workforce, pre and post-COVID, all the way till what's going on today as well. So we already did great introduction. Thanks, Nicole, for that. So I'm a certified career coach. I've been coaching and training since 2002. And my running joke so far has been most of my gray hair, luckily for me, has been underneath, but there's a lot more starting to happen up here. Just is what it is. I turned 52 this year. Undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And I love presenting on this topic in particular because I have felt that this mental health and work-life balance, since I started my company, it's always been a focus for us. And I think it's just so critically important. And I'm glad that it is coming more top of mind in topics of conversation professionally. So we're going to give you as much helpful advice as we can today. And so that you don't feel overwhelmed, I want you to, or I would suggest, I should say, choosing one action step that makes the most sense for you based on where you are in this journey of work-life balance, etc. And as a reminder, you will get a copy of the recording. You can get the slides as well, and I'm actually going to put that in the chat box right now. So do me a favor and just locate the chat box. There's a few resources in there and information, but you can click on that link there to download our slides so that you don't feel like you have to frantically write every single thing down. But pick what makes the most sense for you that you can commit to, like in the next week, for example. What action step resonates for you the most? So here's what we're going to discuss today. Here's our basic agenda. We're going to talk today about external definitions, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that and how that can impact our work-life balance and mental health at work and personally, honestly, as well. So we'll talk about those external definitions, how they suit us in some ways, but how they may be working against us. We'll discuss our ideal career model so that you can be thinking about what does balance look like for you professionally and what are the right components for you to have in place as much as possible professionally so that you can feel good at work. We'll talk about your values, how to identify those, and how this influences our topic today. Setting and establishing meaningful goals for yourself professionally so that they incorporate some of our values and other priorities in addition to, okay, my boss says I have to do this, sure, but what do I need to do for myself for self-care? We will discuss boundaries and how to set those in the right way so that we can take care of ourselves more. And I am open to Q&A throughout the course of our program today. I have the chat box open, so please feel free to put anything in there that you want to share in terms of a question that you'd like to ask. But also, if you have any resources or suggestions or advice that can help other people, we would love to hear those too. So please put all of that in the chat. And we will have Q&A time at the end, but I can stop along the way to answer questions as they arise and make comments as well. Another way to get the slide, it's the same thing as the link in the chat box, but if it's easier for you to use the QR code with your phone, that's just an option there. So let's talk about our first topic here and why this is such an important topic of conversation. Our goal is to not be like the people on the next two slides, right? There's a lot of things that have been happening in the past several years, and I think we all know about a lot of these things, right? If we are working from home, those employees that work remotely tend to log more hours during the workday, which can cause less work-life balance. Some people these days, especially with the political environment, and we're not going to get into details about that, but I just want to acknowledge and I realize that with everything that's going on, with the workforce, there's a lot of concerns that people have, understandably, about their job stability, concerns about the economy and the political environment, how that impacts people's jobs, depending on whether there's more focus on renewable energy, all that other good stuff that happens when we elect a new president. So there's a lot going on that can impact our mental health. So please know that we want you to focus on this more than ever because we understand that there's a lot happening that can influence this. And we want you to feel as stable as you possibly can, like inside of yourself, if you will. And the other reasons why it's so important to focus on mental health is that it impacts our not just our work-life balance, but we tend to take this kind of stuff, our professional stress, understandably, back home. And we need to make sure that we're not, going down the track of suffering from anxiety, depression, all of that. And we also know, if you look at this slide, and thanks for launching our first poll here for today, this will be our only poll for today. We're launching it at the beginning to make sure you guys are on your toes. But we also want you to know, too, that when we work with our clients, there are a lot of people that will tell us, unfortunately, they either currently have a toxic or difficult manager, or they've been in a toxic work environment before. This happens way too often. And so just know that you're not alone. We'd love to see our results of our poll, so we'll give you a moment here to fill that out. And curious about what your biggest obstacle is. And the reason why we encourage you to think about this is because this is what can help you decide which action steps make the most sense for you. Where you struggle the most is where you need to focus the majority of your energy in order to get back to greater balance, if you will. So it looks like, honestly, which makes perfect sense to me, we're kind of neck and neck with all of these. And it's okay to say, by the way, several of these or two of them or all three are things that are difficult for you. I encourage you to write down what your top two obstacles are. That's a really good action step to start considering, because then you can say, okay, what are the action steps I need to take here? All right. And it does look like one of them is standing out more. And this is helpful for me because we can focus more here on the struggling with reading certain situations and understanding what's going on. And as we progress with this today, like we said, if we are not answering some of your questions as it relates to your specific obstacles, we're happy to answer questions as we go too. Okay, good. It looks like we've got 100%. So I'm going to just go ahead and end it since can be in control here as the co-host. Haha. Let's take a look at our results. Struggling with certain situations and reading what's going on, kind of reading the room. So we'll talk about that today a little bit more. Thank you for sharing this. This is great. Communicating effectively is still high, and then difficulty regulating emotions. Totally understand. You're not alone with any of these. These are very normal for people to be struggling with. And please know also that when we're talking about, and this kind of leads us into our next slide, that's the bad news. This is the good news, is what we find, first of all, is that small changes that you make can actually have a really big impact on your mental health and your balance. And so one of the things that I want to say before I get to this next slide is please know that we find you don't have to necessarily turn yourself into a pretzel and do all of these different things and make these really big dramatic changes in order to feel better. We find small changes can actually equal really big results for people, which is good because then we know that we can make these changes that we're talking about today and they can have a large impact. This isn't like we have to climb this huge mountain, even though I realize it may feel this way. So looking at this slide, you can find that greater balance. I'm not saying here that every single day is going to be perfection. Mental health and life balance is something that is ongoing and requires ongoing maintenance. It's not this result that if we can just get there, everything will be perfect. It's something we need to continually work at. And the goal here is progress, knowing that every day is not going to be perfect, but we can make it a little bit better is the goal. And the other thing that we want you to think about too, please, is that balance in mental health, it really is a fluid thing and everyone defines it differently. So there's not this like one way of looking at balance for ourselves and how we want to feel. It's very different for different people. So please don't use any external definitions, which is what we're going to talk about on this next slide, to kind of force yourself into this box of, oh, well, it's supposed to look like this. So I've got a problem if it's not like that. Okay. And someone shared in the chat box, thank you for this. One obstacle is being understaffed and too much on your plate too. So we'll talk about that a little bit today as well. So let's do our first or look at our first step. And this is to take a few minutes over the course of the next week, let's say, to start to identify external definitions, maybe limiting beliefs that you have or rules that may not be working for you quite as much. And 9 times out of 10 with these, we don't even know they're operating in our brain. Like they're operating at a subconscious level typically. They're influencing how we behave or how we make decisions. And the more we can be more conscious about these things, the better off we're going to be. So if we take a look at this next slide in the middle, what happens to us, understandably, is we get caught up in our daily lives and we're busy with work, with kids, whatever else is going on for us. And we start to define ourselves. And in some ways, this can be a good thing when things are going well based on our role, our profession, our salary. In some cases, we're good at these certain things and that's it. And we're limited there. Sometimes we define ourselves by past issues we've encountered or status. And in some cases, looking at the second bullet point, we may have inherited or kind of adopted values, norms, definitions, or priorities that come from society or maybe from our family or maybe from our organization that don't fit for us exactly, or maybe don't fit for us anymore. And we need to think about these things so we can get out from under it. And I'll give you one example if you look at this slide. So when I first started my company a long time ago in 2002, I had this belief, like everyone says, you really need to unplug and take a break, and you should never work on vacation. That's a bad thing. So I tried that out, and I ended up being so much more stressed when I got back from vacation because I hadn't seen what was going on and I was hit with this pile of stuff to do that I tried that several times because I thought, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I should do. It doesn't work for me. And so I removed that. And now what I do is I make sure, obviously, during the course of my week and when I am on vacation, I am taking time to consciously unplug. Absolutely. But I like to work on vacation because I come back a much less stressed out person. I've been able to deal with certain, things that I need to deal with. And it's not this big like hill that I have to climb when I return. And I still feel like I got a break. So we want to think about, okay, are we defining ourselves or do we have beliefs, et cetera, that are actually not working for us that we just assume like, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. And another thing that can be difficult for our mental health, which is not good at the very bottom here, is when we compare ourselves to other people. Well, I should be here and I'm not, or this person has this and I don't, whatever it is. I heard or listened to a podcast a long time ago that I thought was great. With this comparison to other places or people, etc., you need to imagine, if you imagine that everyone has a GPS, like in your GPS, you're going to take a trip to California or something like that. Um, and you've got your roadmap, you know where you need to go, et cetera, et cetera. But what would happen and how bad would it be if everyone else's GPS, where they were going or how they were getting to California from a different direction or going somewhere else, how confusing would that be? We need to focus on our own journey and have our own GPS and our own path as much as possible. It's okay to compare ourselves to others when, for example, that inspires or motivates us. But when it's something that is negative, it's not good and we need to not do that and remove it. So one of your first action steps is for you to think about to identify and discard those external definitions. Remove external definitions that we don't want or that don't work for us. And remind ourselves on the left-hand side of the slide that our sense of self and our sense of stability and peace and balance really needs to come from the inside out versus the outside in. Because if we are defining ourselves based on external circumstances and our sense of peace comes from that, and then, for example, something changes at work or we lose our job or whatever it is, then things are going to fall apart. Now, I realize that this is not perfect, that being understaffed and having too much on your plate is stressful. But as much as we can, we want to remove those external definitions as a starting point. Set our schedule and our actions as much as we possibly can according to our internal definitions. Focus on your journey. And we also talked a moment ago about having where these small changes can actually have really, really big results. So think about this, and we'll give you some specific action items on the next slide to start working on this. Our sense of self, the goal is we want it to come from the inside out because external circumstances can change. So take a moment tonight, maybe before you go to bed or, lunch hour today, we're past lunch hour, whatever works for you, to consider and think about this for just a few moments. Do you think that you have values, norms, or priorities that are inherited or external to you that are not true to who you are? And making sure that aligned as much as you can. And I would love to hear in the chat box if people feel like they do have some of these, and give us just a yes if you think you do, and if you're willing to share what that limiting belief might be, etc. Put it in there as well. We'd love to hear from you. So a couple of things that you can start to consider here as action steps to work on this first piece. Where do you think you're defining yourself incorrectly, maybe, or externally? And these little tiny nuggets, again, when we talk to our clients about their limiting beliefs or what's that definition that's going on there that's influencing your choice here, they start to be like, oh, wait a minute, that comes from somewhere else. Another self-assessment, really quick 5-minute journaling exercise can be, what does success mean to you at this point in your career? And what does that look like? And how can we incorporate work-life balance into that definition? A second thing to be thinking about is if you have any limiting beliefs about how things are supposed to be or what you should be doing, including comparing yourselves to others, this can lead to lower self-esteem and making choices that may not work for us, mental health wise or otherwise. So we've got to be careful about these things that are shoulds when we tell ourselves these things, or supposed to be, that can influence our mental health, because that means we're living by someone else's rules, so to speak. And then finally, another really helpful exercise that you can do over the course of the next 5 days is doing some time tracking. Where are you spending your time at work and outside of work? And tracking your time just in like a quick journal on your desk for the next 5 days. Because 9 times out of 10, I will tell you that our clients will be like, oh, I'm spending so much time here. And when they actually track their time, they realize they're not actually spending that much time there. It's just it's taking more of their mental energy. So actually really knowing clearly and accurately where your time is being spent at work, and outside of work as well, and how much time you're spending on each task can help you tackle this problem of, can I be managing my time better in certain areas? Am I spending too much time over here and that's making things out of balance? Can I find ways to be more efficient in certain areas where I might be spending more time? And do I need to be spending more time over here? So tracking your time, like literally hour by hour for the next 5 days to say, okay, this is what I'm doing next, will give us a clearer picture of what's really going on. And that's where we can get a clear sense of what to tackle and how to tackle. The second thing or tool to think about and leverage is to get into a better place of work-life balance and also mental health professionally. We would encourage you to take a moment to take a look at our ideal career model. So this is a tool that I developed early on when I started coaching, because I wanted people to be able to see at a glance really easily what were the right components to the right career fit, and making sure that they were paying attention to all of these areas as much as they could. So here's what I find is that if you have, even if you are working longer hours, let's just say, and I'm not saying we need to work all day long and longer hours, but if you are doing tasks or performing tasks that play to your strengths and that are more fulfilling and rewarding to you, you're going to feel better and it's going to work better for you. So there are elements here that we want you to think about to say, okay, how fulfilled am I at my current job? And are there tasks that I'd like to perform and can perform a little bit more that would be more fulfilling for me? Am I playing to my strengths and my current role? Am I feeling like my work environment and my role is a good fit for my personality type? Is my role a good fit for my past experience in education? What's my work environment like? And can I make some changes to it, even if it's just changes to your office, your desk space, pictures, et cetera, that will make you feel better and inspire you more? There's lots of different things that we can do here in order to feel more engaged, have better balance. So we want you to focus on the fulfillment piece, the strengths piece, and the work environment pieces, these 3 specifically, so that you are paying attention to your schedule, the culture of your organization, the people that you're working with, and would you like to connect with them more? And would that give you a sense of better balance? Your physical space and your values, all of these things can help you kind of as a checklist to say, okay, where are the areas where I could make some improvements using this model to say, in certain segments, can I make some changes here to feel a little bit better? The next thing you can take a look at and get the slides and print this out. And by the way, with our life balance wheel, you can make changes to any of the components on here too. These are the most common ones. But you can even draw the wheel for you. But I would recommend, like I said, printing something out here. And the first thing that you want to do with the life balance wheel, and we use this with all of our clients to get a sense of where things are in line or out of whack with them, is rate your current state in each of these areas with your finances, your health and wellness, family and friends, etc., relationships, all that good stuff. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Where do things stand now so that you have a sense of things? As part of this, the second thing you can do with the balance wheel is draw a line. And this one looks different. I realize the categories are the same. Um, but draw a line between these different elements. And the concept here is that if this was a wheel on your car, it would be really bumpy, like things are not going to be going so well. Okay. So the goal is to have it be a little bit more smooth. Now, let me just talk about this for a second, because what I want you to realize too is we don't want people to print out this wheel and be like, okay, everything has to be perfect and I've got to get everything to a 10 or a 7 or whatever. That's way too much pressure. Remember that balance looks like what makes the most sense for you. And you might be at a time in your life where things are a little bit out of balance, but it's for a reason, because you're working on your master's degree, or, some people are planning a wedding, whatever it is. So the key here with the balance wheel is to be mindful of what's going on and making choices that helps you stay aligned with the wheel as much as possible. So for example, when I was starting my company a long time ago, I actually lived in Chicago, and it was just before I was living with my husband. We weren't married yet. And I knew that, okay, I'm starting this business and I'm working full time as well. So my life was going to be a little bit out of balance, but it was for a reason and a choice that I was making. So what I needed to do was say, okay, what do I need to do with these other areas to help keep them on track? But it may be that some of them are going to fall by the wayside a little bit more for a certain period of time. So this is how we want you to think about balance, is being as conscious as you can about it, knowing that it's not always going to be perfect. But when you can feel like, okay, like this is what's going on for me at work right now, what can I do to better manage things for myself work-wise, but also personally as well? The third step with the life balance wheel is on this next slide: to define your future state with your wheel. What would it look like if things were in a really good place here? Some clients will like to journal about it. Some people want to create a vision board, whatever works best for you. But what we want to do is, as much as possible, move things in the right direction. Small steps, big results. And assess your life balance wheel quarterly. Okay. So don't just say, I've done it. Okay. I've done it for the next year. Like, put on your calendar, I need to check in on this every quarter. Where am I at with each of these areas? And how can I make some small improvements? Some of the things we recommend to people to help them with their mental health and balance. Some of our clients will create a playlist of music that they want to listen to when they need to get motivated, when they need to get more peaceful or whatever it is. Some people, we will literally tell them, just get out of your office, walk around the block and come back. But getting outside and in nature and just away from your desk can help you think more clearly, more creatively, get into a better mental space. Make sure that you're taking breaks during the course of your day. Use your phone to set alarms if you need to. And I'm not talking about a 2-hour break, but I will tell you, if I go, let's just say, because I have always worked from home, or at least for a long time, if I just say, I got to think about something for a minute, I walk away from my office and I go into the kitchen to get a cup of tea or put in a load of laundry or whatever it is, I'm noodling on work stuff during that time. And I come up with ideas about how I can handle things differently, because I've given myself that break for a second to think about things in a different way. Think for yourself about not just the times of day that you're at your best and having that be when you work on your more difficult tasks, but what days of the week are best for you to work on certain tasks. Now, I realize when we have a boss, we don't get to choose all of these things all the time. But if you can move things a little bit in the right direction and at least say to yourself, okay, I know that Tuesday, Thursday, I always need to do this because Susan is always asking me for this the next day, whatever it is. Be more structured and mindful about your schedule during the day, but also during the course of the week as much as you can. This can help you use your time more efficiently and effectively based on what goes on at work for you and deadlines, but also what times of day are best for you to work on things as well. I will tell you, just really quickly before we get to this slide, during the course of the week, I may not have as much down think time is I could really use to work on specific projects. So what I will do is I'll work on something sometimes that I know really requires that thinking time a little bit on the weekend for like an hour. And I feel so much better because I've had that time to do that, go back to work, etc. Now, again, like I'm saying, that works well for me. Balance looks different for everybody, but at least think about when are you at your best to help you with this. Let's look at step number 3, and this is the importance and helpfulness of moving in this more positive direction by considering and thinking about what's fulfilling and rewarding to us. We really encourage people to not just know and understand what their top 5 career and personal values are, and sometimes they may overlap, just by the way, but consciously take action in alignment with those values more often during the course of your workday and your personal time too. Values are our guideposts to fulfillment. They are things that are deeply meaningful and important to us. And when we take action in alignment with our values, we are going to feel more fulfilled. One way to identify what your values are is to think about a peak experience in your life. It could be a moment in time, it could be a period of time, either way is fine. And write down what was cool about that experience for you. Why was it a peak experience? That will give you clues to some of your possible values. And as much as we can during the course of our day, if we can track our time and identify those activities or tasks professionally that really fulfill us inside and outside of work, then we are going to feel better and have better mental health. Remember, I said a few moments ago that when I'm doing something, even if I'm working a little bit later or extra, but that thing is fulfilling to me, I feel a lot better and I actually feel in balance, even though on the flip side of it, I'm working a little bit longer because it feeds me. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for activities, people at your office or outside of the office, activities outside of the office as well, things that you can do that feed your heart, your soul, that make you feel a sense of accomplishment, etc. Because even when you are busy, it's going to get you into a better headspace. Another way to think about your values is to think about what are your interests or your passions even outside of work. And I'll give you a quick example. So the reason why there's a mermaid on the slide is when I was a kid, I grew up in Florida, and we used to go to Weeki Wachee all the time. I don't think it exists anymore. It might be a subset of something else. And when I was a kid, I was like, I want to be a mermaid. That's the coolest thing ever. Look at how beautiful it is. They were educating people through entertaining them. And there was an element of of that possible career idea, of risk. And when I thought about that as an adult, that childhood dream, even though being a mermaid wasn't the right thing for me to do, there were clues to values in that childhood dream for me. And there are clues to values for me today in the books I read, in the TV shows I'm drawn to, the activities I perform outside of work or do. So my values of like beauty and creativity, I love creating PowerPoints and like messing around with my slides for these types of presentations. I like doing that just enough, right? It's fun for me. I like educating people by providing webinars like this. And that was part of that childhood dream. And I also have a value of risk. I love snow skiing and thank you for telling me it still exists. Okay, I was wondering. I love snow skiing and horseback riding, and there's other values as part of those things, absolutely, because I have a value of health and wellness. But there's a part of me like I like watching like spy shows too, because I have this value of that. So this values piece can make a really big impact on all of the things that we're talking about today. Now, I'm not saying like work yourself to the bone and, just because you're honoring all your values, that's okay. Absolutely not. But if you can be more conscious about these things, it's going to get a little bit better. It's again moving the needle. As part of step number 3, we find while you're working on this for the next several weeks, for example, if you can do like a daily quick little check-in, how did today go? What did I accomplish today? Was I able to socialize and feel connected with other people? Like checking in on those values, but also reviewing your day to say, what are the changes that I can still continue with or would like to continue to make? But how am I doing now that I'm making these changes? Being mindful of this and even maybe keeping a journal and noticing like how you feel during the course of your day can really help. And even if it's 5 minutes at the end of your day, I'm not saying any of this has to take like hours upon end, but noticing how you're feeling and also noticing any negative thinking. We really like this book that helps people with those negative Nellies in our head. It's called Taming Your Gremlin. You can buy it on Amazon. It's like $12, very affordable. And we really like it because it is a short and sweet read. I don't have patience to read really long books. And it gives you some great exercises that can help you combat fears, negative thinking, anxiety, all of that as a good starting point. The Rick Carson, he wrote this book a long time ago, and our clients love it because he talks about our negative inner voices in our head as gremlins. And you can talk back to them, you can push them aside, you kind of imagine what they're like. And the goal here with gremlins, bottom line, is, and this negative thinking, is the more that you can be the observer of what's going on in your head versus falling victim to it and feeling bad, the better off you're going to be. Because you'll be able to say, oh, that's that thing that Coach Hallie was talking about. I'm not going to listen to that because that's a waste of my time. I'm going to move on to something more fulfilling, rewarding, what my next task is. Okay. A couple of action steps on the next slide that can help people with everything we're talking about today. Better diet. We all know eating better is helpful for people in their mental health. Getting some kind of exercise. You don't have to be like a bodybuilder. I am not. I can't stand going to the gym. That's why I ride horses, and luckily I'm able to do so affordably, really close by in Decatur, outside of Atlanta. And it's close enough. I have to trick myself into exercising. I love walking my dog, but being out in nature, taking a quick walk, it doesn't have to be for 45 minutes. Body movement supporting our mental health goals is a huge win. That makes a really big difference. Positive thinking and those affirmations pasted on your bathroom mirror on a Post-it, for example. We talked about setting timers, adjusting your workspace, seeking help from others, and having that connection with other people can help as well. So pick whatever makes the most sense for you in your situation. I'm not saying do all of these things tomorrow. Pick one thing that's going to make the most sense for you. As part of our balance and mental health too, one of the things that we suggest for people over time is to write a vision statement really quick, 1 or 2 sentences, not that long, for each area of the career model. If that area for you was at a 10 work-wise, what would that be like? This can actually give you some ideas about things that you may want to do to make changes at work that can help you a little bit more. And identifying a goal for each one of these areas can help you too say, oh, okay, like I want to make this change in my work environment, or I'd really like to work on these types of tasks a little bit more, or my plate is really full. Can I get some help? How can I deal with this? Because it's not sustainable. Can I talk with my boss about it? Can I use technology in some way, shape, or form? Can I reprioritize the things on my plate? Something's got to give. We've got to figure something out. Part of why I talk about the model here, and in general, when you're setting your professional and personal goals, instead of choosing things that you feel like you should choose, and I realize our boss gives us professional goals, so we have to adopt those. I get that. But if we can attach our goals more so to our values, they're going to be that much more meaningful to us. We're going to be much more motivated to achieve those goals. And when we achieve them, we're going to feel a greater sense of satisfaction. So it helps too to say, where is my career in each of these areas? Where are the inconsistencies that are making things be out of balance for me? Because this will help tell you what you need to change. so that you're not saying, oh my gosh, I have to change all these 8 things. That's overwhelming. That's not going to happen. But if you're like, for example, okay, compensation is a little bit out of whack, or I'm not leveraging my strengths as much as I would like to, what can I do to try to move my career in the right direction to make things a little bit better? Okay. So I want to just reiterate one other thing, and I'll pull this up really quickly. Just wanted to let you all know that if you'd like to learn more about our coaching services, I'm happy to talk with you to find out if it's the right fit for you. I always do a free consult. We give a discount to Emory alum. So please, if you do schedule this with me, and you can do it using the code here, there's actually a link in the chat box as well, but mention that you heard about us through this webinar so I can give you that discount. We love doing what we do, and I'm happy to speak with you about if our services make sense for you at this time. So if you take a look at the right-hand side, I already talked about this top one first a little bit, but as much as you can, if you can attach some of your values to your goals, that's going to help you choose the right goals in the first place, as well as be more likely to achieve them. We like attaching your goals to your values as well as the career model a little bit too. And even if you don't share it with your boss, like my performance review, and here's my plan for my career this year, we want you to include work-life balance goals inside of those. Okay. So I realize that we've got certain goals that were provided by our organization, let's say. We want for people to have their own kind of career plan so that they're steering things in the direction, big picture of where do I want to be at the end of this year? And what does success look like to me, including as part of that positive mental health and work-life balance. Now, quick little notes here that I do want to say on the bottom of the right-hand side of this slide. Test out different things that we're talking about today. Some are going to work better for you than others. You might want to try one thing, and if it's not working, throw it out. Try a different one. Give yourself a few days of trying something out and see how it goes, and be flexible and adjust. And take baby steps here as much as possible. Like we said, try one small thing and see if, for example, I'm going to make a commitment to leaving work on time 2 days next week or something like that. And that may seem like silly or ridiculous or depending on your situation. But you say to yourself, okay, how am I going to make that happen? Does that mean I need to plan ahead a little bit more and do a little bit more work on this day or whatever it is, or be more efficient or push something back? So these baby steps can have a big impact if we just start trying to make some changes too. Oh, and I totally messed up because I told Nicole and Iram that I didn't have a second poll. So I would love to hear, please, in the chat box, and I'll put the link in the coaching thing again too. Who on the call today has life balance goals incorporated into their professional goals? Go to the chat for us and give us a yes or a no. And you'll see as you're doing this on this slide that we would like you to have a certain amount of goals that you're checking on quarterly. And a couple of people saying no, but I should. So we're not looking for 5 or 10. It could just be 1 or 2. Okay. But incorporate those into your career plan as much as possible. And I'm putting the link to the consult. It's the second one at the bottom. The second link at the bottom. Make sure that when you're doing this, please, everybody, that you're putting on your calendar quarterly that I'm going to check in on this. So quarterly check in on my career goals for this year. And as part of that, my work-life balance goals. How are things going? Is it not getting better? Does that mean I need to make a more dramatic change because I've tried everything else? There's no right or wrong answer. It just depends on what your situation is. And I really appreciate everyone's comments in the chat box too. Thanks for that. So check those out. All right. So step number 5, and then we'll get to, after we talk about boundaries, we'll get to more Q&A. Please share comments as well, because we'd love to hear resources. Boundaries are not always going to be perfect, and I realize you can't always set them yourselves. You've got a boss, you've got goal, I get that. Small little boundaries that you can implement. when you're going to check in and respond to emails. We've all heard this, I think, before. Do not check your emails first thing in the morning. Wait until, like, give yourself an hour or whatever it is to focus on stuff so you can get your work done. Other people will have heard, well, if all you're doing is responding to emails, you're just doing what everyone else wants you to do versus focusing on your priorities. Now, here's what I'll tell you I do. I don't exactly follow that rule because for me, part of knowing what my priorities are for that day is to look quickly, is anything on fire? So I look in my emails really quick first, anything urgent that is cropped up that I need to shift things around a little bit. Beyond that, I say, okay, I can wait till later. So think about these different things. How do you handle vacation? Do you use an app to track your time? Use an app for meditation? Do you need to take a mental health day sometimes? We talked about the second one on the bottom, identifying when you're at your best already. So thinking about not just your time tracking, but all of that. Step number 5, as part of this too with your boundaries, there's several things on here. I'm not going to read through all of them just so we make sure we get to Q&A. But in some cases, we may have to close our office door. In some cases, we may need to have a nice little tagline or something that we say to those people who tend to bug us at our door all the time in our office. So sorry, I can't talk right now. In the middle of something big, can we talk in an hour? Like, people don't want to be rude. And so what we work on with our clients sometimes is like, what's our little like boundary setting? Like, what are the things that we can say to be positive and professional, but set those limits? Okay. Start your day. Another one I want to mention here, and then we'll keep going. It's easier and better to start your day in a positive way as much as you can with mindfulness, etc., versus it starts out poorly and you have to backtrack. So it's easier to do that. Just keep that in mind. I did just want to mention this really quickly. We've got a really great coaching group that is only for our clients. So it's small and really good and kind of hands-on. If anyone is interested in that, just send me an email or the link is here if you want to learn more about that. It's $25 a month. It can help you with these life balance goals, but everything else that we're talking about today. And our final slide related to that one and getting support, find ways to get help with your life balance and mental health goals, whether it's therapy through BetterHelp or Talkspace. There's some really good websites and apps out there that offer help and assistance, which is so great. You can use AI in some cases to get suggestions and ideas for better time management, for setting better boundaries. How can I be more efficient with this type of work? So remember, ChatGPT is there. It can help us with certain tools in order to be more effective and efficient at work and maybe manage our time. But we really want to recommend, if nothing else out of this whole thing today, is to please reach out to at least one person, like as an accountability partner for you, that can help you stay accountable to the things that you want to set goals for and the boundaries that you want to set and all of that other good stuff. Okay. So thank you for listening and absorbing the info. As a reminder, you'll get a copy of the recording. Here's where you can get the slides. And do we have any questions that anyone wants to ask? Because I know we covered a lot. And like I said as well, I remember that we're looking for progress here, not perfection, because it's not like this, okay, if I can just get to this balance thing, everything's going to be perfect. It's always going to be something fluid that we need to be kind of managing over time and seeing what works best for you. So go ahead and put any comments or questions in the chat if you would. And someone's wrote me a message about keeping them separate. And if there's something you'd like to ask there or comment on, please feel free to elaborate. Email be sent to participants. Yes, they will. So you will get the email for the slides, hopefully, or in the email for the consult as well. And any questions that people want to ask too, you can put those in the chat, or if you'd like to come off of mute, you can feel free to raise your hand too.
have a question, Hallie.
Yeah.
You can't see me, but I'm raising my hand.
Oh,
Um,
good.
I- I'm curious. What have been the most uh, effective tactics for people kind of managing up with work-life balance, encouraging their managers to respect that, or encouraging leadership and management to incorporate these kind of goals into our professional goals?
No, I think that's great. So, what we tell people is it's about asking for what you need, asking the right questions. And so, for example, if you need more structure and you need to meet with your boss more frequently, or you need more talk time or whatever it is, not just waiting for that to happen and not just saying, hey, can we talk more, but coming up with a plan. And in terms of managing up, knowing what their style is, but also what you need, saying, can we change the cadence of our meetings? I feel like I really need XYZ. They can be shorter, but more frequent. And Fridays tend to work best. Is that something that could work for you? So don't assume that they're going to know exactly what you need. And in terms of managing up, making suggestions, asking for those needs, talking about them, and being willing to do so can help with them being able to meet and understand those needs. And not just like keeping your head down and, axe to the grindstone, but raising your hand and saying, I'm really struggling. I don't know where, I need help with prioritizing my time. I've got so much on my plate and I feel I'm concerned that I will, get burned out. So how do I, can I get some help with this? Do you have any recommendations or suggestions? And even if you can't speak with your direct boss about that, is there a mentor or someone else within the organization that you could speak with, or even talking with HR? So speaking up a little bit about it and raising your hand, asking for what you need, but coming forward with a plan of action about how that might be implemented can be really, really helpful. Does that kind of answer as a starting point?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Because sometimes people will have bosses that, they're great and they're really nice, but there's no structure and they're just like, "Okay, cool, good luck." And like you need to say, "Okay, cool." Like ask the question, "When are we meeting? What's the right cadence? Like how can I best support you? What method of communication works best for you? Is it best?" So even asking them directly what they are looking for from you and making sure that you clearly understand what their expectations are and how you're going to be measured on those expectations. Again, be really, really clear there. And we've got two comments here, if I could call those out for a second, because I think this is absolutely true. Work goals traditionally don't include personal goals, and hopefully that is changing over time. I do think it is slowly but surely. And we do have some clients who their bosses actually really care about whether they're engaged at work and what their next step is and what they want things to look like in the long term, career wise. And another person was mentioning HR may be able to assist you with educating your management. It could be that it's worth asking and talking to them about it. We have this idea that we use with clients about it's a concept of what's called powerful questions, where you're asking people like questions that are thought provoking versus just yes or no, that kind of force them to think about different alternatives and ideas for things. A question that came through: any suggestions for structuring peer-to-peer support? Neither of us has had a mentor, but thought we could support each other. I think that's great. Helpful tools or books about this type of mutual support. I'm trying to think. I don't know, like, here's what I'll say. I really like a book that's called Coactive Coaching that I think can help with asking the right questions and work-life balance. And I'm going to put this in the chat box and one of the authors. Um, I think this can be incredibly helpful as a way to ask yourselves the right questions. There's a life balance wheel in there and an explanation, sorry, about how to use it as well. But that can help you understand how to be a good mentor. So I would suggest that one. And then another person said, which I'm really glad to hear, Emory HR has been cognizant and responsive of the strain on employees after COVID. That is music to my ears. I think that's so awesome and helpful. All right. Any other questions? Oh, yeah. So there's another book recommendation, Emory author in October, author versus editor. So check that one out. That sounds like that could be helpful for things related to this too. That's great. Okay, Nicole, anything you want to say before we close out and while we wait for any other questions to come through too? Oh, mute. You're on mute. I know. I do it all the time.
There we go. I think we actually did just have a comment come through. That is interesting uh, regarding their experience trying to implement these kinds of steps, which is really interesting and could maybe more so be a work culture concern. But Hallie, you might have some additional thoughts on that comment.
Yep. So having backlash about doing I would consider these things that we're talking about that are relatively simple and benign and should not be affecting or reducing your performance does tell me that, yeah, it could be a toxic and not a good culture to be in the long run, honestly. Because if you're taking these steps and your performance is still there, within reason, obviously taking the right steps, not just like them, having a problem, or if it's really severe backlash, to me, that's not a good culture to be in, I would say. And I would be considering leaving. I'm sorry to hear that that's happened for you. And know too that some other people working in that environment, for whatever reason, they may be just fine because that's, what they're looking for at that point in their career, or whatever it is. They might not experience things in the same thing. So, yeah, I wouldn't try to force yourself into a square peg, round hole. That's never a good idea.
Absolutely. Great. Well, I'll say thank you so much to everyone for joining us. You will be receiving email shortly after today's session, likely from my colleague Iram Mihal, with a link to complete a short survey. We greatly appreciate you all sharing your feedback as we continue to offer these great programs and work with our coaches like Hallie. This session does qualify for our Certificate of Attendance program, which is a new initiative launched beginning of this year. So when you receive your link after the event, you can request the certificate through that email. But on behalf of the Emory Alumni Association, we want to thank you again for learning with us and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody. Have a great day.